I think when it comes to leaders, I think it's the knock-on impact it has on the rest of your team is
Yep.
underestimated. I think it happens with any hire, but it's just compounded so much more when you bring in someone to lead teams, particularly multiple teams. Their style doesn't work. They're having it kills morale in the rest of the team. And then you start to see increased turnover or turnover risk in the team. And you're just immediately compounding those costs that you're seeing. Even if you take that hire out, you've left a lasting damage there.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I was going to say. The effect on morale, engagement. I mean, us HR people are always trying to improve engagement, retention, etc. But if you hire the wrong leader, you're going to have people that are leaving the company. You're going to be bleeding dry, and the cost of that turnover is just killer.
Welcome to the FocusCore Podcast, where we dive deep into leadership, talent, and the evolving world of business in Japan to help you focus in on your core business. Today, I'm very excited. I've been excited about this one. I get two people for the price of one for Global Leadership Services. I got Brent Conkle and Dan Ring here. So Brent, he's the president and CEO, and brings more than 24 years of experience across HR consulting, people development, and talent acquisition. He's worked in North America, Europe, and Asia. He's a certified coach, known for helping executives cut through complexity, lead change, and elevate performance. And Brent's career spans startups, turnarounds, and major APAC transformation projects, all with a consistent theme: strong ROI and stronger leaders. And along with him is Dan Ring, an experienced HR professional with over 12 years across Europe and Asia. Dan has built his career around strategic HR, change management, and talent development, including senior roles with Broadbridge and NatWest Markets in Japan. Now he consults with Global Leadership Solutions, helping organizations align people, culture, business strategy in a rapidly evolving workplace. So together they bring a formidable, global, practical, and deeply human perspective on leadership today. So I'm glad to welcome you both here.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
So what now I'd like to hear from your own words. Tell us a bit about both your backgrounds. Brent, kick us off.
Okay, so I came to Japan about 30 years ago and found myself in human resources about 28 years ago. I started out in the travel industry, setting up tours in the Middle East and Africa, and then found myself facing HR, and really fell in love with it and got hired on to DHL, helping them with their organizational development, talent development, recruitment, employee relations. And really what set me up for success was strategic human resources. And that's what the organization really needed to transform from a domestic company into a real global company, was the strategic human resources, which was a perfect fit for the way my brain works. So for the last 28 years, I've been working in developing solutions that provide an ROI to clients around strategic human resources, whether that be from talent acquisition, talent development, or even succession planning and outplacement, covering the entire employee life cycle.
That's great. Cool.
Cool.
And Dan?
Yeah, so somewhat shorter of a career compared to Brent, but
I think we just got called old, Brent.
uh,
I think Dan just politely said
fine.
we're
And so I started in London Originally took on an HR internship after university, working for a brokerage before kind of swiftly moving into an HR project consultant role at what was RBS at the time. Worked in the London office there, then got the opportunity to go out to Asia, originally in Singapore, to help with their restructuring work. They were going from 10 countries to three, so there was a lot of work to do there, supporting the HR team on the ground. I was there for a year, supposed to go back at the end of the year, decided a year was not enough and I wanted to stay long term. So took an HR business partnering role, looking after the sales and trading guys there, and did that for a few years before moving to the Japan branch and running the HR function there, albeit relatively small, but it was still a really kind of new and interesting challenge for me there. And that culminated with us basically offshoring the function back into Singapore to try and streamline everything. And then I moved on to Broadridge after that, where I worked alongside the regional team there on various different HR projects. Again, I was a regional HR business partner, and we had when I joined, Broadridge had acquired a company which had a larger presence in Asia. So there was a lot of work we did in integrating that company. And then after that, I did some global projects as well, looking at career frameworks and some restructuring work around how they want to look at leadership across all their non-US entities. Again, that kind of culminated with us sort of streamlining the HR team again, and I restructured myself out of a role at the end of or middle of last year, and then decided it was time to pursue something I'd always wanted to do, which was set up my own consultancy and go it alone and start working for myself. And that's where Brent and I started connecting and started collaborating. And whilst I obviously have my own thing, I'm also working with Brent on what he's got in global leadership solutions, specifically around a lot of the stuff on leadership profiling and some of the new tools that he's got the licenses for. So yeah, it's been really interesting the last I guess year or so. And actually, I love working with the thing I really love about this style of work is just connecting with so many great and interesting people. It's the best bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So one of the things that was so intriguing, and being in search myself, one of the things that we come up with, especially in Japan, is you have a shortage of candidates, and a lot of our clients meet candidates and they are second guessing themselves. And so you guys came up with a service called Second Opinion Service, SOS. And I mean, it's just brilliant. I think it's the best thing since sliced bread. Tell us more about that and how that fits into what organizations do and how they can better hire.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm glad you're excited about it as well. Having spent and worked with so many clients over the years that have just gotten it wrong, and this is a global phenomenon, gotten it wrong at the entry point in recruitment. Got the best person on paper, they interview very well, everybody likes them, and once they're hired, then everything falls apart. Not always, but usually it falls apart. So I had always been looking for a trusted tool that would contribute to the well-being of whoever was being hired, whoever was hiring that person, so the organization's well-being, and then overall to the country or the world. And I finally stumbled across in 2011 what's called the Garuda suite of profiles. And being kind of a armchair organizational psychologist, organizational design, trying to figure out how to get the right people in the right role at the right time, performing the right tasks, etc. I went kind of off the deep end and tried every single tool assessment that was out there multiple times. with multiple different results for the same person. Maybe I have a split personality or multiple personality disorder. I don't know. But Garuda had the research over 40 years. They had started out in recruitment, frustrated just like everybody else is. And then they wanted to design a scientifically based tool that would predict performance, success in that role. That could be customizable for each organization, for each role, and set people up for success and predict leadership talent, stress sensitivity, and a set of competencies that were universal to all human beings, and assess that, again, like I said, scientifically. And we thought, okay, companies have got 2 or 3 clients, candidates, I apologize, 2 or 3 candidates that they've really like and just can't make a decision on which one is the best person. So like going to a doctor and they tell you that you've got this, that, or whatever, and you want a second opinion, you go to the HR doctors, Brent, Dan, the rest of the Global Leadership Solutions team, and we can provide a service to you that has a definite ROI in getting the right person in the right role with the right competencies and the fit to do the job. So we brought the second opinion service to Japan here last year. It had been in play with Mats Brazeas, who passed away in 2017. And he had been working with the Garuda tools in Japan doing the same type of service since about 2005. And it was through Mats that I got introduced to the Garuda family, the Garuda team, the founder, got trained myself, and I just fell in love with what it actually measures, the validity, the reliability of the assessments, and what it predicts is very well, what should I say? You can take the test again and again and again and not get different results. And we have definitely got something that is proof of the reliability that the people in those positions that get hired will be performing at the level that is needed for the organization. And for the small amount of money that they pay for the service, there's a very clear return on investment. That's a long-winded answer to a very simple question.
No, I think, having experience, being on the sharp end of some of those decisions, when you've seen leaders come into an organization, you think they look great, and then, it doesn't work. And I think in locations like Japan, where culturally things can be quite different, the way leaders operate and think can be different, and it's really critical to find the person that can face off well against global leaders versus leading a domestic team, and just being able to move between the two and understand how to operate in different ways. I think being able to surface that kind of capability is invaluable. That's what really struck me about the service, certainly when I've gone through that.
I mean, automatically, I'm sure our listeners, especially the ones in Japan, we always get skeptical. I remember doing training in Japan, and if you're not in Japan, everybody's just they cross their arms, and so the validity for this, globally, but versus Japan, how do you see that playing out? I mean, you both have global HR experience. How does Japan compare with the service, and then in general?
Okay, going back to what I said about the 16 universal competencies, we all have them. Now, Garuda has got over 300,000 profiles done, measured. the success of top performers for different roles and has a huge database of global. But the tool itself can be customized locally to each individual company's culture, national culture, or regional culture through a very simple job profiling system. So the client would take 30 minutes with one of our consultants, go through the job role, customize it to their organization, what's really needed, identify that, what levels of that competence is really needed in that role, and culturally, whether it be the organizational culture or the national culture, the regional culture. So you've got two benchmarks. You've got the global overall, how top performers look, and then you can create a customized benchmark for your own organization.
Now, would you, for the clients that you work with now, do you recommend that they do this with just the like CEO or the CXO, or does it work with middle management? How does that operate?
Great question, David. Ideally, in the world that we're living in Japan, with the shrinking population and predicted 11 million less workers in the workforce over the next 10 years by 2035, we're seeing a scramble to try to hire and recruit leaders now and develop leaders early. So from entry level, if you could hire and predict this person's leadership potential, the better. So some of our clients are, gathering as many leaders as they possibly can now, while there are people in the talent pool, which is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. But I think from a practical point of view, anybody that's paying 10 million yen or more, basically a manager or team leader up, second opinion service is great for that.
Question for you, because we got a lot of our clients are facing what you're talking about, really going out and trying to hire that young leadership. And what they've been doing to combat that is really look to usher in the young people. So they've spent a lot of money on new grad recruitment.
Yes.
And then what they want is they want to put people through management training programs that a lot of companies we talk to now are creating brand new management training programs. Is this good for, selecting those young leaders to go into those programs? Would this be a helpful tool for that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the beauty of it is, not only is it for just assessing leadership potential, but you can carry the tool and the methodology across the entire life cycle. So if they are going to go into management training, if they are going to go into young leaders development programs, the same tool can be used. You pay for it once, and it can be used across that whole life cycle. And then when you're looking to promote who into what positions, you can go back and look at the data that you had and say, okay, here's our talent pool. These are the candidates that we're going to invest in. And these are the ones that are going to be on the short list for promotion, because a lot of people are going to be retiring within the next 5 years. And then how to get them up to speed. So you're basically really maximizing with the second opinion service across that entire life cycle, how you strategically develop your people, what your succession planning looks like, all with one simple methodology and tool.
That's great. So let's broaden it a little bit. Besides, we know that there's tools out there, and we recommend. I always recommend that companies have some sort of recruitment process, whether, I've taught top grading and rolled that out into companies. So, but in some ways, it doesn't matter as long as there's a methodology and that they're following that. But still, companies are making bad hires all the time. So, from both your perspectives, why is that?
Bias.
Talk to me more about that.
What university did you go to? Wow. Todai, big name. Harvard of Japan. You must be a top talent. That's one bias. Second bias. I really love Dave and I really like Dan. You're both great guys. I'm going to hire you. But that doesn't mean that you can perform well. That doesn't mean you can drive results. Doesn't mean you're an innovative thinker. It just means likes attract likes. And these are two very common, simple problems that I have experienced and seen, even having my own executive search firm. Great candidate, total top performer, maybe not the best communicator in the world, gets beaten out by somebody who's a great talker.
I just to add to that, I think a lot of when you look at how tight the leadership talent market is in Japan, a lot of what I've seen in the past is referrals, people getting referred through and recommended, and I think sometimes that skews the thinking when you're making a hire. And if a senior person in your organization's recommending an individual, you immediately go into that meeting or that interview with a kind of slightly different mindset than you would do if you just pull them in from either they came through an agency or they applied directly. I think that we use that as a kind of, obviously referrals are great. It's great to kind of understand relationships and use that, and you need to utilize that in a market as challenging as the Japanese market. But you sometimes then end up overlooking, I think, actually exploring some of those potential gaps in more depth.
That's great.
Even with the referral system, still the best companies are putting people through some type of filter or assessment process. Yes, I can trust who Dan is introducing because I know Dan and he's a great employee. So he must be, again, like-minded person, like-minded competencies, etc. But the reality is, if I don't put that filter of second opinion and assess against the competencies needed for the role, it just might not happen. They might be a cultural fit, but they're not a fit for the role.
Huge advantage I'd see is so often there's a incongruency between local management and HQ, and mainly it's language. So,
yeah,
someone in London is speaking to someone in Tokyo. That guy, he went to Chicago MBA, really good English, great communicator. Let's go with that one. The other, she's nice, but her English is not as strong. Whereas if you're and local management knows right away, local management speaking to him in Japanese knows which one can do the job.
Yes.
And if you go through a process like this, it just gets rid of that problem. And you can prove it to HQ finally, and local management can go, this is why we want this candidate.
That's right, David. You're spot on there. This is a real world problem, and the reports that we produce and the feedback that we give to HR or the hiring managers themselves, it is evidence-based. They can go back and show headquarters, this person is ranked this as a 90% fit in their leadership talents to the role. This person is a 70%, and that's the MBA that you were speaking about with great English. But which one are you going to take? 90% fit or the 70% fit?
That's great. So, in your experience, I mean, I've gone through as a recruiter and doing search at executive level. You hear a lot about how expensive mishires are. So we've read, stat after stat about how costly mishires and a bad hire is. What do you think, in your opinion, is the most underestimated cost for a bad hire?
Dan, you go first.
Well, I think when it comes to leaders, I think it's the knock-on impact it has on the rest of your team is
Yep.
underestimated. I think, it happens with any hire, but it's just compounded so much more when you bring in someone to lead teams, particularly multiple teams. Their style doesn't work. They're having that, it kills morale in the rest of the team. And then you start to see increased turnover or turnover risk in the team. And you're just immediately compounding those costs that you're seeing, even if you take that hire out. You've left a lasting damage there.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I was going to say. The effect on morale, engagement. I mean, us HR people are always trying to improve engagement, retention, etc. But if you hire the wrong leader, you're going to have people that are leaving the company. You're going to be bleeding dry, and the cost of that turnover is just killer. So getting it right the first time by hiring the right leader who can be highly engaging and build high-performing teams and have those competencies, if you don't get it right, you're just, like Einstein said, doing the same thing and getting the same results. It'll never get better. It'll never improve. Your engagement scores won't improve. Your retention won't improve. HR will never get the budgets they need to do the real work because they're just a cost center. Yeah. And that's a solution we provide. We fix that problem.
Yeah, just listening to you speak, and I just think through how many companies I work with where you have a CFO and the finance team's always just bleeding people. They're always hiring someone. Right. And why? Because they have a bad CFO. But then you think about the alternative. When you bring someone in, they start putting in great systems right away, start training people up and, moving the right people in the right seats, making just great decisions, and then the organization just skyrockets. It's so impressive.
A great point. You kind of see it in the opposite direction, right? You see the benefits just so much more when that person's the right fit. And they become an attractor for talent. So actually your costs when it comes to hiring may even go down because you don't have to do the searches you had to do previously, because this person brings in talent from outside because they draw in the right people as well.
I also see, if I can interrupt, I also see in the hiring process, the people who are great leaders, when they are looking for their next career or looking for the next company to join, the leadership team is quite important for people when they're looking for that new role, that new position. And if they get interviewed by a great leader, I mean, the energy that comes off of them, the competence that comes off of them, it's an invisible attractor to that hard to find, hard to get talent. And then if you've got somebody that's just really not a leader, it shows up in the energy, and psychologically the subconscious says, yeah, I need to stay away from this company. I can't follow this leader. I'm not going to learn anything from this person. I don't like their management style, their interviewing style. And you lose some of the best candidates
Yep.
because of that.
Yeah. So I want to kind of challenge you guys on a couple of things. So this is a nice tool. Got that.
All right.
Okay. Let's talk to two different people in our audience. The first is, okay, why this tool versus all the other psychometric tests out there? That's one. Then the other group of people who don't believe in them anyway. Yeah, it's an HR mumbo jumbo thing. I'm going to hire with my gut because that's the way that's how I work. We got kind of those two people in our audience, I'm sure, that are thinking these things. How would you address to both of those?
Okay. When I went off the deep end and tried all these different assessments, trying to figure out what was the best tool that was needed for my organization at DHL, etc. The question is, I went through all of them and they were good at predicting type, but not competency.
So what's that mean?
What type of leader are you? You're a visionary leader. Great. I'm not looking for a visionary leader. I'm looking for a practical leader. That would be the results of one type of assessment that could be used for training and development, for example, or in change management. But it's not a predictor for recruitment. I'm looking for a certain set of competencies that is scientifically backed, that is reliable, and assesses their leadership potential broadly. Not what type of leader are you. So that is how I would answer your question. It's not a type indicator. It is a competency indicator.
So you're kind of looking at the verb instead of the noun.
Yeah, exactly. And it's an action verb.
Got it. Thank you.
And we just on that as well, I'd say the analysis you do on the job profile as well in advance is just adding to that value, right? So it just allows us to be much more specific about how this person operates and the competencies as they relate to the role that they're coming into. Like you say, Brent, it's not just here's your profile, do what you want with it. It's saying actually let's apply this to the real scenario and actually tell you how this might potentially play out and where the risks may be specific to your role.
Right. Let me give you a concrete example of that. Thanks for that, Dan. That's a very good ad. As part of the second opinion service, clients are going to create the job profile. Then they're going to assess, say, 3 candidates they've already interviewed that they like, and then want our expert feedback on. And they make a final hiring decision based on their own intuition, their own criteria, plus the second opinion service, and they pick the final candidate. There's an onboarding report with the solution of transition coaching that taking the onboarding report from the Garuda profile and helping that person get up to speed quickly in that new role with the competencies that are maybe a little bit of a gap between the ideal candidate. I mean, there is no ideal candidate, really. It's a needle in a haystack. But again, this person's a 90% fit. I can use the same tool, methodology, get the onboarding report, and then work with that person through a transitional coach through the onboarding process to help them grow into that role even quicker and start performing better with better results.
Cool. Right. One of the things that the the profile has that I found was interesting was about stress sensitivity, and I think that's that jumps out just being in Japan, right? I mean, it's we always talk about these black companies and working yourself to death. So in Japan's high pressure work culture, how reliable is the stress sensitivity score?
Thus far, we have found stress sensitivity, the validity of it has been very, very high and very, very good. If people are going into a stressful environment, how much stress can they handle is a good predictor of not only performance, but longevity in the organization. So I joined ABC company. I have a very weak tolerance for stress. I didn't realize in the interviewing process that it was going to be such a stressful role or stressful environment. And I'm very weak to stress, but I was hired anyways because of my background, my experience, the skills that I bring, the personality that I have. And I'm under a lot of pressure. So I can't perform well. And when I can't perform well, psychologically, I start to feel, okay, I need to be getting out of this environment. I need to be looking for a new role. And I don't want to generalize, but 20 years now in this recruitment field, when I go onto a LinkedIn profile and I see somebody's been there a year before they changed to another company and then to another company, when I've assessed those type of people, they're very weak towards stress. They're very weak towards stress. And that shows up in the system, in the reporting. So if I'm wanting to hire somebody that is going to stay with the company, that can handle the stress, that is a leader, that has the right competencies, this is a good validation of why I'm hiring this person.
So let's we've talked a lot about recruitment and being an executive search. I appreciate you guys taking the time to talk to me about that. But I think another critical point in the process is onboarding. So talk to me a little bit around what you've seen in onboarding, what makes a successful process for a company? Where do companies fall apart? How do you see that working?
Dan, from your experience, before I talk too much again.
No, I'm having a think now because that's a good question. Comes to onboarding. I'm thinking about sort of experiences in my career where we've brought people in where it's worked well, where it hasn't. I think that having when you're a senior leader, you need to be surrounded by the right support network when you're coming in, and I think that that takes time to cultivate and to build relationships there, particularly in senior roles. You need to be ensuring that before they come in, there's ample opportunity for them to meet with stakeholders and to build those relationships with stakeholders. So by the time they come into the organization, actually, I think everyone has a good understanding about how they operate and kind of what their expectations are around kind of, how they will interact and how they will update each other. I think people don't want to be blindsided by stakeholders or kind of expectations that didn't come out during the process. And I think that being really frank and upfront about challenges as well when you're coming into an organization is really key. I did a talk recently about we're talking to startups about when you bring people in, don't paint this rosy picture just for them to come in and see what's actually going on inside the company. And actually people really appreciate you being candid and being open about where the challenges lie. And I think that's a big part of successful onboarding, is being really open about that, but then explain to people how you've set up the support network and then what tools they have and resources they have available to help them overcome those challenges. Um, and being ready for when things go wrong, inevitably. Like, sometimes things do happen when you first join an organization and things are different, and your approach that you're bringing in is going to jar with in some way, perhaps. And it's dealing with that, being able to handle that and have the right support network to deal with those issues. I think actually the stress thing is really important there as well, because if you can't, you need to be able to, you need someone that's going to understand that things will not always be perfect and that there will always be challenges and that you're going to need to grind through a bit. And it helps when you have those people around you that are ready to support you.
Yeah.
The socialization bit, building on what you're saying, Dan, is a phase of the onboarding. Being able to build those social relationships, stakeholder relationships, that is key and critical in the transition coaching that we do and supporting people through their relationship building, as well as what objectives are put on them. And then what objectives are put on them, then we can highlight which competencies they have for relationship building, what competencies they have to achieve those KPIs, or maybe they're challenged to transform the organization or change the organization. And again, we can work with them through their competencies to help coach them around how to develop that. And I feel like it's kind of, when you join a new company, you've got a new set of values, you've got a new set of mission, vision, values, stakeholders, etc. How well can I adapt to that culture, to that business, to that industry? And through the competence profile that we use with second opinion service matched with transition coaching, we see people get to be a quicker fit, up to speed quicker, and just the results and return on investment is priceless.
Yeah.
I'm actually curious, David, like in your experience, you'll have seen tons of people go through executive onboarding. What do you think is like the top thing that you think companies get wrong in that environment?
Not bring you guys in to do their coaching. Sorry, you teed me up for that. I'm just sitting here thinking, Brent and I were speaking last week about just how valuable it is that it's something that you spend time with for helping candidates and companies onboard, and having that kind of mediator, that third party to go in and speak to. Because when you're a new hire, especially in an executive level, there's no one to speak to except maybe a spouse or a friend, and they don't really care. You can't really speak up because they're evaluating. You can't speak down because it's, you need to have that third party. And so to answer your question, Dan, I think just having that something to help push through the honeymoon period, because everybody wants to come in and do a good job. There's always expectations that are not met from both sides. And it's how well does someone settle based on how well those discrepancies can be resolved quickly and easily. Because it doesn't need to be big things. It's just so many little things that can be done. And I think, when coaching is applied, and I think, that's where executive coaching is exceptional, is with this onboarding. And you put someone through that first 6 months, it just gets everybody, the company and the candidate, there for a long term and great buy-in. And it shows that the company cares a lot about how they bring people in. So there's just not a downside to it, really. It's such an inexpensive way to do that.
The downside to it And we can all speak to this. And I wish I was smart enough to track the results of this, but a company that does not have a good onboarding system is definitely going to lose talent quicker than someone who has a robust, full suite of love, support, onboarding to get that person set up for success, to deal with issues that come up, and how they can, again, adapt to that new environment, that new mission, that new set of objectives. And they're going to be long-term performers, long-term advocates of the brand. They're
Yep.
going to be attractors for the next generation. And you're going to see bottom line results. So if you don't have it, you're taking a huge risk that hopefully somebody will just stay and be a great leader.
Absolutely. So we've got kind of we built in a recruitment talent acquisition process.
Yes.
We got tools to evaluate. We've got strong onboarding. Now, let's talk about the future of strategic HR, since this is kind of where you're at, and AI. Everybody's speaking about AI, using that in different ways to assess candidates, different ways to rid ourselves of bias. I talked to someone on a podcast where it was like AI was putting biases in as well, so there is that challenge.
Yeah.
How do you see AI and automation changing the way we assess candidates?
Brent, you want to start or do you want me to go?
You.
So I think at the moment what we're seeing is a bit of a race to the bottom with some of the AI
Yes.
tools in the market at the moment, with the way they are used to automate an assessment process, and equally candidates are using AI to automate on their side as well, right? So you kind of ended up with this everyone going down this route, robots talking to robots, right? Um, and obviously there's clear examples of fraud happening as well, with people coming in and trying to pretend to be people they're not. Uh, so I think there is a flip side to this, which is that we can use AI to create really compelling, I think, experiences when it comes to hiring and assessing candidates. I don't think, and this doesn't just apply at the executive level. I think you could take a a coaching model, for example, and have in-depth discussions with someone about their career history and how they might apply, how it might look inside an organization, and kind of help them understand where their skill sets really excel, and proactively look for roles internally across what's going on in your organization. Equally, it could be cross-organizational. You could have people using their data from one application process and taking that to another company, and being able to use that to really fast track them through a process. And I think actually it, there's a lot of opportunity there for AI to help streamline that process in a way that it isn't just apply, click the LinkedIn apply button, just submit your CV, but actually there's a really well-rounded, in-depth profile of this individual and how they might fit within an organization.
Yeah, I like that, Dan.
From my perspective, I'm seeing the robots to robots screening out great candidates, number one, an overload of candidates, number two, applying, and then being screened out. The best practice I've seen is taking that job role and analyzing it. What are the competencies or requirements or the tasks, etc., feeding that into AI to generate behavioral questions to actually ask and customize to each candidate.
Mm.
I think that is the plus side of AI in feeding that information, what is required of the role, and then producing a set of questions to assess each candidate's response to those questions, and then back it up with something like second opinion service.
That's great.
Some people are great creative thinkers and can give great answers off the top of their head, but can they actually perform in that role? Let's do a second opinion.
Yeah, that's great. Well, so we've kind of touched around this. So let's kind of finish up with one piece of advice you'd give any business leader about to make their next critical hire. What do you think they should do? Start us off, Dan.
Dan.
Oh God. Okay. Well, I think well, I always say don't rush. It's probably the first thing. I think people always tend to go into these things and say we need to hire yesterday, which is way too late to start hiring, obviously. So maybe start thinking now and start thinking deeply about, what kind of role you want and who you want to bring in. Give yourself enough space to spend time on the assessment process. Whether you go, whether you decide to use a tool like Second Opinion or not, you do need to give yourself the capacity to do a deep dive on behavioral competencies and how they will play out. They are more critical to leadership roles, I think, in many ways than more, the skill sets that can be, learned or acquired along the way, right? If you've got the leadership capability that's kind of built in because of your behavioral competencies, then that's really valuable, and you need to find people and figure out a way to bring that out and identify that in candidates.
That's great, Dan. Thank you. Brent?
Take a look at your business and how your business is performing, first of all. Then decide what is needed in your leadership team, in your management career, in your employees. Let's say innovation. We can't innovate well enough in our culture, in our industry. We're bleeding red year on year. So you need to have people who are very strong at like abstract thinking, innovators. So those are the type of things that I would be looking at in terms of where do you see your business now? How's it performing? What type of leaders do you need in the future? Let's create that profile of those competencies and bring the right people in to carry your company forward for maximum results. And that's how I do it strategically.
That's great. Yeah, just to mirror that, I think so many leaders say, I know what I don't want. And they don't sit down and do exactly what you're talking about, Brent. And I mean, that's why you bring in a consultant like yourself, is they need someone to guide them to what they do want. Once you can see where you're going,
yes.
I mean, I know I don't want to drive that direction. Well, don't drive that direction. Figure out where you want to drive, and then you can go. So that's great.
I often say, David, a fish cannot see the water. They may be in the environment, but fish cannot see water. But when I go in and I'm working with an organization on transformational change or business change, etc., from guiding that leadership team, helping them to set out what their future looks like and what needs to change, what type of people they need to bring in, what type of people do they already have, but are overlooked. What's your internal talent to match that future forecast or future vision of your organization? So within a lot of the leadership workshops or change management workshops that we do, getting them to be able to start looking and guiding them through creating what that future looks like has been invaluable process. And then let's look at your internal resources first. And then if we have to think externally, what can we import?
Fantastic. Some rapid fire questions for you guys.
Oh,
You ready?
fire.
Ready?
Okay.
I better duck and cover.
Dan, you go. You'll go first. Brent, you'll give us the follow up. Coffee or tea to power your mornings?
Coffee, which is very un-British of me, obviously.
It's all the Brits I know drink coffee.
Iced coffee.
No, iced coffee, very specific. What's the first app you open on your phone each day?
What is it? Probably like LinkedIn. That's really bad, but probably, like the first notification that normally comes up is from there, and I don't know why, but yeah, that's probably the worst thing to do, actually. Yeah, how embarrassing.
Outlook. Okay. Favorite
What's
spot?
coming overnight that has produced results, and then how do I plan out the rest of my day or the rest of my week? All starts from Outlook.
You're living that productivity dream there, Brent.
Yeah, exactly.
Favorite spot in Tokyo to clear your head, Dan?
Um, Probably the pub. Like, I have a great little craft beer place down here in Meguro, actually, which I like.
What's it called?
Another eight.
Another 8. There you go.
Like the Amazon guys go down there, but it can be a little quiet sometimes, just before like closing time, and if we've got the time, or just before everyone finishes work, and they do good beer, so I occasionally get down there.
Nice. Brent?
Probably I'm going to go either to the park here in Yanaka Ginza, where I live, as a daily ritual to just get with nature and clear my head. And then if I'm feeling very adventurous, I will go to my go-to energy spot, and that's what the Dickens in Ebisu.
Wow. And you bring your guitar.
Bring my guitar, bring my band.
Okay. Okay. What book has influenced you most in your career?
Oh God. The most? Dan?
It's a bit dated now, but I really like the 4 hour work week, which I think is just changed my mindset. So
It's a
consider.
good one.
Did you go and lay down in a public space?
No, I did not do that one. No. Well, certainly not in the middle of the day. Yeah, but
I
I,
did get some weird looks when I did that. I'm still
yeah,
working more than 4 hours though.
yeah.
Brent?
Okay. This is easier than I thought it would be. The Speed of Trust by
Good one.
Stephen Covey. Everything revolves around trust. That would be the first book that I would say revolutionized the way I started thinking about everything. Trust, trust, trust.
That's great.
From a self-trust, relational trust, organizational trust, societal to community.
Hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, Covey's done a lot.
Yeah,
Er-
Speed of Trust was a good one.
Early bird, night owl.
Early bird.
Both.
Oh,
Don't sleep.
I
got
don't
the-
sleep.
he gets nap times.
Especially when I was working for the State Department. I was like on a world clock. It was like when DC was waking up, I was wanting to go to sleep, but was in a meeting with the bosses at the Bureau of Global Talent Management.
Brilliant. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Best piece of advice I've ever received.
That's a really hard one, that one, because I feel like I've received a lot of good advice from people, but uh, I would say there's never a perfect time. There's never a perfect time.
I guess the way you could say it that most people would know is know thyself. The more I have built my self leadership and my self awareness of what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, has made me a much more productive person. I can trust myself more. I can trust my decisions. I'm much quicker at what I do. I know who to delegate to, so on and so forth.
It's great. Good old Socrates. And last but not least, one skill you think everyone should learn.
That's one skill. Brent, you go first. Go on.
Leadership. One skill. It is a skill. It can be learned. You've got to find out where you are on a leadership scale and then start developing skill sets around leadership. Those can be taught. Those can be learned. The question is not, am I a leader? The question is, what kind of leader am I? How effective of a leader am I? And how do I grow and develop my skill sets, my forget that word, my competencies, my personality, etc. But the world is definitely in desperation for great leadership, great leaders, leaders that you can trust. There's a crisis in trust in leadership at every level in society. And that's something I'm very passionate about doing and why I don't sleep, because I'm always working with people to grow as many leaders as I can as quick as possible. So we have...
Well, you've given me sufficient time to think of my one there, Brent, so thank you for that.
He's given gems, right?
Yeah, it is, and I can't. How am I going to follow that up? No, I just think, I think listening is the skill. I know it's boring, but I think that more people should listen.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
You're very good.
10,000 comedians out of work, and Brent's trying to be one of them.
Yeah.
Well, with that, gentlemen, it's been a delight to speak with you both, to learn more about your world and what you're doing and how leaders and HR can really improve. We'll put links in the show notes to where people can find you and reach out to find more about SOS and the other wonderful things you do around coaching, leadership, and development. Any other things that we've missed?
Nothing that I think we've missed, but we want to express our sincere gratitude to the listeners, to David, to extend the offer of trust to bring us on to your podcast.
Thank you.
Been a pleasure.
It's been an honor working with you, and I look forward to hearing from some of the people who have fortunately come across this podcast today.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, David. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks.
I'm doing the up, down, low, down, yeah.